What I find so interesting about this last interview with Chris Proudfoot, which of course was just a phone call, is how the interviewers fluffed him up with some light questions and telling him, we are Christians, we don't judge, and all of this stuff. And Chris Proudfoot really warmed up to them. And all of a sudden, there is this particular moment.
Oh, Sheila, you ask him. Sir?
I believe that is their tactic. You can hear her whisper in his ear. Listen again.
Some crazy stuff.
So Chris is yapping, right? They give him some easy questions. She suggests, oh, maybe Sebastian walked to the school. Of course, there's no way because there's so many cameras in the school. Listen to this.
When it comes to what could have happened, what may have happened. Yeah. You know.
You hear? She whispers.
Oh, Sheila, you ask him. Sir.
So this is good cop and bad cop. And he is the good cop, and she is the well, I don't want to say bad cop, but she's all of a sudden asking a question that I believe Chris Proudfoot didn't expect to be asked, because he was expecting something like Illuminati or Granny's Watching, where basically they don't challenge him whatsoever, right? But in this particular case, there was a surprise. And the question she's about to ask you is going to shine the light on a lot more than I had expected listening to the very beginning. And the first thing she says is "sir," but she says it in a pretty determined manner. Let's hear one more time.
You know. Oh, Sheila, you ask him. Sir?
Yeah. Sir? Now she becomes a little bit forceful and little bit official. And of course, Chris Proudfoot prides himself being a respectful guy. The only problem is that he knows how to act on the surface respectfully with formalities, right? So he can say to Nancy Grace, ma'am this, ma'am that, but when it comes to real respect, as in towards Sebastian, there is none. He talks about Sebastian defecating himself and all of these and trashes him all across the internet. Any chance he gets, Chris Proudfoot has no respect, none whatsoever. But he was taught how to win somebody over, I guess, if the person is gullible enough to assume that formalities equal real respect. So Sheila is about to ask him an open-ended question, which I absolutely love.
Yes, ma'am. What do you all think happened to little Sebastian?
So I like this question. And first of all, she says little Sebastian, and that shows that she does care. She cares about little Sebastian. She has, and this is an expression of feeling a connection to him. Acknowledging him as little also shows that she views him as helpless, not necessarily just in the connection of being missing, but I'm pretty sure she knows about the CPS reports, what his home life was like. So this question now is going to fluster fast talking Chris.
Do you have? I'm down to.
See how long he takes to answer this. He needs to think now. I believe that he now tries to remember a script that Katie gave him, because he's not smart enough to figure out too much on his own. He is the voice. Katie is the brain.
Literally, I'm only down to 2 scenarios here.
So what happened with the others? Let me guess. Katie told you this is too obviously lying. Katie watched my program. I doubt Chris Proudfoot ever. He could not be able to sit 2 minutes through my program. He wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. He is that simple-minded. But Katie, I believe, hammered certain things down. Just like, don't talk about Sebastian in the past. That's why Chris Proudfoot, not being able to differentiate, talks about Sebastian is taking his medication daily and nightly. Why? Because she hammered it down into his brain so much. You need to talk about him in the present tense. Of course, in this particular case, it wouldn't make sense. Because how would Sebastian take his medication right now? Well, unless somebody took him in, gave him a fake ID, and get the prescription filled from a doctor under that fake ID? Come on, man. This is when you realize that scripting is in place, because all of a sudden it doesn't make any more sense. Now he's down to 2.
Okay.
And look how much time Chris Proudfoot is taking. Look at how much time Chris Proudfoot is taking. Remember his other interviews, how fast he speaks. He needs to think, and thinking is not his strong suit. And the reason he needs to think is because none of what he is about to say is actually what he thinks. And remember, the question is what he thinks. Thinking.
Well, I feel very...
Not what you fear, what you think.
Probably the most reasonable in my head that makes sense.
Okay. Now we're asking you what you think. And he said he's about to give us 2 scenarios. Let's see which one he goes to first, because he just says the most reasonable in my head. In my head. It's somewhere there in his head, but he has to sort it out. And it's there because he remembers what Katie Proudfoot told him to say.
So the first one?
And he's thinking about which one would make sense to you, the listener.
It's very simple. Okay.
When he says it's very simple, I've talked about it before. Keep it in the box. Don't think outside of it.
Sebastian got up, walked out of the house.
Unnecessary information. He would have to get up. He was in bed. Walked out of the house. Well, that's the premise he expects us to go with. Walked out of the house. So he says there are 2 possibilities, right? Let's listen to the first one. They got up. I just talked about it. They walked out of the door. Remember, in the beginning, Katie Proudfoot is a fabricator of realities. She doesn't just state, and mind you, when he made these statements, they came from her. So he didn't just state, I think Sebastian, or he must have walked outside of the door. But the $1 million question is, why did he do it? So they are trying to plant a seed in your mind, but the premise that you have to accept is that Sebastian walked out of the door, which he did not. The same with Melissa Proudfoot's statement. That is the first priority. They need you to believe that Sebastian walked out on his own, alone.
House. Walked out in the woods. He's out there somewhere.
Walked out of the house, okay. Walked out in the woods. He's out there somewhere. Right. Everything has been searched. No way. No way on earth. But let's see how far he will take this.
And we can't find.
Okay. And we can't find. Right. Okay. You hear that? That's
the simple one. That's right.
That's the simple one. Really. It's also an impossible one. But you told me it's very simple, so I now need to accept this, because if I don't accept it, then I cannot follow your simple logic, right? and I need to be contained within that little box and cannot think outside of it. Well, of course, but the moment you think outside of this simplistic box, you're going to immediately realize that this is a fabrication and it is an impossible one. It is absolutely impossible.
Right. Sometimes simple is the way it is, but go ahead.
So he's playing along here and saying, okay, Chris, yeah, blah, 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 you know. And that's good. That's good. That's what keeps him talking when he thinks you're on his side.
Now the second one.
Okay, now we're getting there.
Sebastian walked out of the house.
Walked out of the house. That's the number one priority. You have to accept that. If you don't accept this, interesting, right? He gives us only two, and both of them require us to believe Sebastian walked out of the house.
Either it was planned or he was lured out of the house. Or
what was planned? What is it? You mean getting Sebastian to disappear? What are you telling me here? He was lured out of the... Oh, from somewhere outside, right? So nothing happened in the house, nothing happened via Katie or you. It was some outside force that gotten him, that is responsible for this.
Something triggered him to leave out of the house.
Yes. And that something wouldn't have anything to do with either of you. Gotcha.
And walked out of the house.
Again, walked out of the house. He's overdoing it. He's overselling it. That needs to be expected because that's exactly what did not happen.
I personally feel...
And when he says, I personally feel, that is very far removed from actually thinking. When you say, I personally feel, it is very close to saying, this is my truth. If you try to argue the point, well, that's what I feel. Not only what I feel, it's what I personally feel. And I have a right to feel what I want to feel. So I am not going to argue this with you. You have to accept what I'm about to say.
He got to Long Hole Pike.
Long Hollow Pike is the name of the street. From Stafford Court, from where they live, to Long Hollow Pike, it's about a 5-minute walk. Tell me more.
And
look how long he takes. You see, for you, if you had to make up a lie like this or recite a script, you probably would do this fairly quickly. But again, accept people for who they are. Let them tell you who they are. Let them show you who they are. He is a very slow thinker. Of course, when he is getting angry and he wants to shut somebody down, he talks very fast, he curses. That's who he really is. That's how he is around his buddies. That's how his drinking buddies. That's the real essential Chris Proudfoot. But now he needs to watch what he is saying because he realizes that this is not just a bunch of dumbasses sitting together in a bar BSing about who knows what. He has learned, and now listen.
He got picked up in a car.
He got picked up in a car, not picked up by somebody. He said in a car. You know why? Because it's easier for him to insert partial truth. I do believe a car picked him up. His whatever state he was in after having fallen out of bed, limp from being over-medicated and hitting his face on the floor. Whatever state he may have been in, alive, barely alive, no longer alive. And that was a car. So that is easier for him to state that within the fabrication because, yes, I believe at 3 a.m., Sebastian or Sebastian's body was actually picked up by a car. And he's avoiding to tell us who was in the car, who the people were. A car doesn't pick you up. People pick you up.
And they headed westbound.
They headed westbound. Who is they? There's plural. Someone headed westbound, right? They. Well, we saw multiple flashlights, right? We saw several people around 3 a.m., more or less, pitch black dark, the car pulling up, removing Sebastian or Sebastian's body. Headed westbound. So let's look at that. Westbound. He is about to tell you why. Now remember the previous interviews. In one of those interviews, Katie and Chris talked about Clarksville and then corrected themselves around Clarksville. Then there was another interview where Chris Proudfoot stated that he thinks Sebastian, you could look for him west or northwest. Remember that? Now Clarksville would be west, a little bit north. And immediately I thought about, well, what is he trying to tell us here? Do we need to look closer at Seth? Is that what he's trying to insinuate? And remember, it looked like Katie nudged him. And there was a correction. Not Clarksville, around Clarksville. Getting it down a little bit vaguer. So what is the reason? What was the reason for these statements? Chris Proudfoot is about to let us know.
Along Hall Pike.
Wow.
Okay, she's playing along. Wow. In order to reference what he's about to say, here is New Shackle Island Drive. Chris will call it New Shackle. Here is Long Hollow Parkway. Okay, here's the intersection, the whole thing. This is westbound. Westbound, of course, is going to lead to the point closest to the home on Stafford Court.
And westbound goes to I-65.
Westbound goes to I-65. Let's make sure we don't lose track of this. Here's Shackle Island and Long Hollow Drive. He's about to mention this. Can you see it when I point it like, oh, okay, wait. Here we go, right? This is the point he's about to mention. And westbound, you keep going west and west and west. And I hope I don't lose where I'm going with this. Yes, west, 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 west. And here is going to be I-65, making it a little bit bigger. Sorry. Here we go. Shackle Island and Long Hollow, the Proudfoot home, going west. So Sebastian would be somewhere on Long Hollow, down to I-65 right there. Now, why is he so interested in selling this type of theory at this point?
Now, there's a license plate reader.
Okay, so he says now. Again, he's not the smartest guy in the world. When he says now, it's him telling us and telling himself, okay, I'm done with this explanation. This took a lot out of me. Let me now get to what I'm about to really hit the home run with in my own mind. Now there's a license plate reader.
On Long Hall Pike. It goes, if you're traveling eastward. So if you're coming from Goodlettsville, going toward Gallatin down Long Hollow Pike.
And Gallatin, of course, is on his mind because that's where his mom and his stepdad live, right? So now he's talking about if you go east. And of course, Gallatin are where like I said, the Bower Soxers live there. And there are other ways to get there. There are back roads. There are. Well, let's hear exactly what point he's trying to make. And remember, he couldn't have gone towards Gallatin, right? Meaning, do not look at Gallatin. Do not look at my family. Do not look at any relative of mine. Listen up.
There's a license plate reader right there.
Uh-huh.
And
And you know that? And I think you knew that before. You knew what to avoid, but you learned something along the way.
76 cars from the hours of midnight to 6 a.m. were registered on that LPR.
Okay. So this would be that location. East camera.
Okay. Wow.
And she keeps saying, oh, wow. Wow. Keep talking, dude. Wow. Really? Oh my God. Wow. Keep talking. Keep talking, Chris. Doing good.
So?
Like Janie. So? Again, he's trying hard to keep it together. It's not his nature to be so carefully worded. It is his nature to, well, he says, well, I'm brash, but I'm really respectful. And so now he has to actually be who he isn't, which is an accurate explainer rather than an intimidator or whatever it is that he is.
All of those cars have been accounted for.
Sure.
Now,
by the way, it's a small number. What, 76 in like 5 hours? 6 hours? 5 hours, right? I forgot. It's not important.
What has not been accounted for.
Aha. There we go.
Is if you were traveling westbound, so if you were going from Gallatin to Goodlettsville,
Mm-hmm.
the one camera
that
could have picked anything up was not working. Hadn't been working for 3 years.
Right. And how do you know that? So here is, again, let me see where Stafford Court is. Okay. Here you see the location of their house, right? And here's the camera location. If you go westbound from Gallatin to Goodlettsville. Let's hear the rest.
And that's at...
How do you know it hasn't been working? Because law enforcement, somebody had told you. And they shouldn't have. The same way Daniel Martel should have never been able to go back into the woods because he wasn't searching in the woods. He was searching for evidence he may have left behind at the pipeline. That is why police not only... that's why police is not supposed to tell you anything if you are a person of interest. Because whoever told you these details now enables you to adjust your script accordingly.
Long Hollow Pike and New Shackle right there at the corner by the school.
Which I have shown you guys.
Wow.
So
it hasn't worked for 3 years. Now, whether or not they're going to work it out, I don't know. But it hadn't worked for 3 years. So anybody going, like I said, westbound, down Long Hollow Pike, could have picked up Sebastian, picked him in a car, all but pull butt down to I-65 and
yeah,
you'd have never known.
You'd have never known. And that, my friends, is the key to the castle. Chris Proudfoot now, after finding out there is a camera that's not working, all of a sudden adjusts towards a theory that can be, well, it's going to be harder to disprove. There are, of course, cameras along the way that must have picked up something, but this is exactly why law enforcement shouldn't tell anything to certain people. This is not going to Clarksville, the I-65. But remember that correction, around Clarksville. Well, around is a very vague term. I have no doubt that there was a desire to make sure that the message is going to be, don't look at my family. If you happen to find the statements or the videos where Chris and Katie Proudfoot talk about Clarksville, it's somewhere on my channel, by the way, in my older videos about Sebastian Riders. And another statement that was about heading west or northwest. You can send it to me at iamfiretown@gmail.com. So next time I'm going to get deeper into detail. But I just figured the first thing that I want to do when summarizing what we have just heard with this new phone call on Fred McCoy and Sheila that they have conducted with Chris Proudfoot, I want to make sure that we understand why has Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot, why have they previously made certain comments? What were they trying to suggest? Well, they found out some crucial information. You see, they sling it out there and see what's gonna stick. That has been the strategy in the beginning. They have learned what makes so little sense that people say, oh my God, you guys just made yourself look even more guilty by promoting something that cannot be. Well, he's still stuck on the out in the woods thing. It makes no sense, but Chris has a hard time letting go. And he doesn't see the big picture. He sees a very simplistic box. And unless you prove him wrong, he's going to stay in the box. I'm Mike the Man. And I'll see you soon.